took a side, what do you call it, a detour on my idea of what I wanted to do. And I just got really inspired by making collage bits and pieces and fodder. And I thought this is something that we tend to like, not a lot of us have a lot of papers and decorative papers and tapes and things like that. So why don't we just make our own? So this is a spread I finished it yesterday, but I started it during the weekend. And I'm hoping I can demonstrate as much as I can to get you to be able to understand what this is. But at the same time, I wanted to share, how you put out paints and then you have a whole bunch of leftovers and you go, and you really, I've thrown a lot of paint away in my time. And I'm thinking, I actually saw somebody, I don't know where I saw it. It must have been on my YouTube journey, going down that rabbit hole. I saw someone making tapes, and I made these tapes. Actually, I decorated these tapes. At the same time I did this, I did this too because it was like a place I could put my extra paints, and I really loved what happened. So I will explain how this is all done. If you have a journal page, whatever supplies you have, and then I'll be using whatever I have, but hopefully you can get some inspiration and some techniques today. So I have my journal. What if you have some tape? Here's what I did. I have like a mixture of tapes because I'm kind of a tape collector. And I've got something, it looks like a masking tape, like a black masking tape that I bought many years ago. Really, I forgot why I bought it, but it wasn't for crafts, it was for something, I don't know, a project or something. And then I found some gaffer's tape, which I was using actually. This tape, I use it to keep my dancing, I have these shoes that I like that are light up, and I like to dance fancy moves in them, and usually the rubber would stick to the dance floor. So I bought this tape. It's called gaffer's tape. I bought that. It has a canvas feel to it. And I bought it to, so that my shoes won't slide. But now I've found a new use for it. I'm so excited. So I'm going to share with you how I did that. But you can also just use masking tape, plain, masking tape in any width, whatever you've got. Tape that doesn't have shine to it, like Scotch tape won't work, but anything that has a dull finish, I think will work. So if you have that, another thing that you want to put your tape on is something that will release the tape. I happen to have some release paper that I use for for doing transfers. So it's silicone coated paper. It's reusable, so you don't have to waste it. I tried doing it on this little palette thing, and the tape just tore the coating off, so that didn't work. What would work would be some kind of silicone baking parchment, something that has a little silicone on it that would release the tape, or any kind of plastic that you might have in a packaging where you could put the tape on and then release. So it would, won't stick to it, but I'm able to paint. So what I did is I laid out, I just about 6-inch strips. And I also laid out, if I can find it, here we go. This is the masking tape I put on and I put the black tape also on the release paper. And I'm really not going to do that as the main project, but I'm just showing you what you can do with your extra paint and while you're working. So another thing that I gathered in my little page here is, I've got some stencils. If you have stencils, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Oops, I'm gonna use that. You can make cutouts this is a little bird that I cut out. I just drew a bird and then cut it out with on some paper, it's not cardstock, but it's close to cardstock. This is also, you can use things like this. And what I like about this allows you to do negative painting, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So that's awesome. You can also, if you have any stamps, like I have these little foam stamps, rubber stamps with words or images, anything like that, whatever you have in your stash. If you don't have stamps, that's okay. You can use little foam, things you can make an impression with, whether it be the end of a sponge like this or the end of a cap. You can use all kinds of things to make impressions. You can even use, well, I wouldn't use the tape, but maybe the roll that it comes on to make impressions. There's a lot of ways to make stamps without having to buy stamps. And remember I don't know if it was last year, we did those eraser carving, and we had those. You can use that. Anything to make impressions with, even your fingers, anything. So we've got that, and I'm going to basically start with a blank page. So I'm going to turn this page, And I'm going to do another one. But this time, this is something I had, if you remember last week, I started this journal page and I never finished it. But I don't feel like I want to do any more with that, so I'm going to cover it up. But that's not lost because it will probably show as I'm doing this. Another thing you need is your barrier paper, like something that you can protect your underneath pages with. So I'm using this the wax paper, the deli wrap. I'm just going to put it in between my pages so that I don't make a mess underneath. If I can get that inside. You also need some glue, some markers, and I think I mentioned it in the email, but you need, I don't think I mentioned the tape. I don't think I did. So that's why I mentioned the tape right away if you needed to get some. I'm just going to put a barrier here. And then you need something to put your paint in, some water, brushes, and things like that. So this is a whole spread we're doing, the whole thing, which is just the spread, meaning you want 2 pages. And if you have the coil in between, that's okay. You'll just open up your book, your journal to have your whole spread shown. Because you just need, it's like we're having a painterly time here. I also have some decorative papers, or not necessarily decorative. Some of them I wasn't really excited about the paper, but papers that have patterns or writing or newsprint, or you can even use like an old book page. If you have a book that you don't want to read anymore, you can use something that has patterns, and I'm going to show you what that's about. But we'll just I'm going to go back and forth with the techniques so that you can get a good idea, and you'll be probably creating in your journal for the rest of the day. At least that's what's happened to me the other day. So I'm going to start. The first thing I do is maybe with a pencil or a pen, make some marks in your spread. And I'm just going to use, this is just a pencil. It's it's a 9B, any type of pencil. I'm just going to use this jet black pencil. If you have a marker too, of water, anything that's kind of permanent, or if it's water soluble, that's okay too, because it's just going underneath. But I'm just going to make some scribbles, and I'm going to make some words that I'm just going to kind of write them all over. And I'm just going to just write in your journal. And you can actually write things that you might want to say that you really need to get off your chest, but you want to cover it up later. That's an idea. I don't know if I should be writing it now, but there's things that, like there's thoughts that I have. So I'm just going to write a quote here. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And just free write and scribble. It's hard for me to write and talk at the same time, but I'm just going to go across the page. And I'm just doing it over the whole thing. Just scribble. I'm just going to go write dreams and nice words that make me feel joy, like maybe the word joy. Maybe also, another word I'm thinking of is health. Intentions. Let's maybe write our intentions for the week, the month, the year, anything in there. Exercise, something I avoid, and it's terrible. I've been avoiding it terribly, and I see the results. And there's no results. Haircut. I love Cheryl's haircut, and it inspires me to get one and maybe have a professional do it because I'm not doing such a great job. So these are things we just think about, words and thoughts that are in your. Just go ahead and write whatever you're. If you don't want to write, you can just scribble. We're just making marks. We're basically, that white page is no longer white. So I'm just going to write no fear of the white page. This will not, no whatever, even if you wrote something personal, it will not show because it's going to be covered. So just do that across your page, whatever size journal you have. So now I've done that. White page is all done. I've already made a commitment. So the next thing I do is I want to do some colors, and I think if you have watercolors, it will be great. Watercolors are fine. I'm going to use acrylics today, but watercolors, if you have only watercolors, that will be okay too. So I'm going to take my little palette, and I'm going to squeeze some color onto my, and I'm going to go crazy. I'm just going to use I want to do, I think I mentioned in the email, 4 colors. So squeeze out a fair amount of color. And you might want to make sure white is included, because white is really important in your, let's see if we can get everybody all set here. Here we go. White's really important because you don't want to get too saturated. Sometimes, just always have a white or white gesso or white paint on hand. Something that you can just always kind of lighten up your pages with. So I've got some orange, some blue, I've got some violet, and this is really good paint, but you can use craft paint. I'm using Holbein because I love their stuff, but you can use any craft paint if you have it, or just watercolors, anything on hand, and just put out at least 4 colors. And if you want to do more than 4 colors, do that as well. But I've got 4 already, and I'm going to do a 5th color just because I love color. And I'm going to do some white because I know it's going to need to be softened. So I'm just going to add some white. And then if you have a brush, a bristle brush, lots of white's good. So the next thing is what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a brush, and what I have in my brush collection, I have different kinds. You can use anything with a bristle, like a stiff bristle is really good. I love working with these. These are, I don't even know what they're for. I forgot what it's for. I don't think it's a stenciling brush, but they're all different. Stencil brushes kind of have a flat tip like this, which I'll be using, but this one has a kind of a rounded tip, and I like it for moving paint around quickly. You can also use a credit card if you want to do the credit card thing and get it all over. So, but I'm going to use this brush because I just love it. And I'm going to be really bold, and I'm going to just put some orange down. And on my spread, I want to do it in 3 different places, a bold amount of orange. I'm just going to do it in 3 places, or 5, but not 2, not 4, but 3 or 5, odd number. Just kind of put some color down and be bold. Maybe put some in the middle, and I don't have to count it. And then I'm going to also go over to I'm going to come over here, and while I have this brush loaded with color, I'm going to put it on my tape too. Just kind of randomly stick it on my tape. Basically, the tape and the journal page are going to get the same exact treatment in this first part of it. And that's because now I'll have matching coordinating tape to go with my page. So I just put some color on my tape, and I pretty much make sure it's on all of the pieces in some way or another. And I can basically run through my orange. That black won't work, but so I'll just, I'm going to use some metallic on the black, but I'll wait for that. So I'm just going to I just want to run through the whole, basically I'm going to get rid of all that paint in my orange. And once the orange is gone, I'm not coming back to it. Oops, I somehow got some purple. Oh boy, this is fun. Here we are. I picked up purple by accident on the thing, and this is going to get messy. I'm going to guarantee that. So after I've moved out of that, I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to just get rid of some of that orange because I want to get a new color, a pure color. I hope I can get, yep, pretty good, pretty clean. And I want to do it fairly dry. I'm not adding a lot of water to this. I don't want too much on the wrinkling going on. So I'm going to pick up the next color is this pretty blue because it's pretty, and I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go kind of next to, just going to scrub it right on. Scrub. And if you have a brush, just put it on there and don't hesitate. So I don't have much on this one. I need to go on this one now. I'm just going to put it right on top. That same blue on this one and here. And really, it's going to be messy, and that's good. There we are. So now I've got that blue, and this purple that got on there, it's all part of the composition. It was meant to be. Now I'm just going on darker blue, and I'm not cleaning the brush because my brush is changing from purple to blue is not a big problem. But orange to blue, that would be a nightmare. We don't want orange to blue because it would look brown. And just put colors on until you kind of made a random composition of just bright and fun colors, painterly, however you want to do it. Just cover your page completely, cover both of your pages. So now I'm just kind of brushing it over And I'm not going to get attached to this because it's going to change. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring this over and I'm going to add some color to this tape because it needs the same tree. It needs the same thing. And this tape is lovely because it is like a canvas surface. It's really fun. Just random, blotchy fun, but put your colors all over the place and then it kind of all comes together. I'm going to mix a little blue with this one and just put some over that. I'm not becoming too attached to this. And if you keep it fairly dry, then, it won't take forever. It won't take forever to dry. I've got some of that purple that I wanted. And I just want to cover up all the areas. And I didn't write on the tape, but that's all right. Okay, so now I'm going to let that sit. Now I have to let this dry, right? So I have a little heat gun I'm going to use. Still got some extra paint. I don't like to waste it, so I'm going to try putting it on this black and see if I get some coverage. Oh yeah, there you go. So I'm going to get some coverage with the black because I did include some white. I'm just decorating just going to put some colors on this tape. I was going to hold off. I don't want to cover all that black because I want to use some metallics on it. But at least I'm using some of the paint. I'm not wasting it. That's kind of the point of having the tape. You can also paint little scraps of paper that you might have laying around. Don't waste it. You can always use it. And this release paper is really great because I'm getting it all over, but it's not going to. The tape is still going to be usable. Now I've got this really pretty stuff going on. I'm just going to sit it down, and my cat is coming to the water. She thinks it's for her, but I have a bucket of water on the ground, and she's oh boy, she thinks it's her drinking fountain. But right now there's no paint in it, so we're okay. I'm just going to keep covering it until I'm happy with it, and I think that's fun. I'm going to let that be, and I'm going to just hit this with a little heat gun to just get it to, get it so I can do the next step. Now, if you're using watercolors, just get it to dry. And this one, and really don't think too much about what you're doing, just play with the color. And if you have pretty colors, you really can't go wrong. So this is the first layer. Second layer. This is number 2. We have scribbling, and then we have this going on. And you can see some of my lettering is showing, and some is not, depending on the opacity of your paints. It just all depends. So now, next step is I'm going to take stamps. If you don't have stamps, you can draw, or you can just you want to make images, lots of details. And if you have stencils, that's also great to have a stencil, like just even parts of stencils to make patterns. Like I've got these little, like circles, and I've got these types of things. Anything that you might have. If you don't have a stencil, no worries, just make shapes however you do it. We're going to make some details, and we're going to do this with I can pull this out. I love this stencil. I'm going to try it. This one, since we're having, and I wanted to warn you, right now, I'm in the middle of a very serious monsoon. We have some monsoon activity here in Arizona. And right now it was sunny about 5 minutes ago, but now I see it's getting dark and I hear the thunder. Yesterday at around this time, the thunder was so loud it scared me. So if you might hear a loud clap, and if the power goes out, that's why. If you lose me, it's because we've had some serious activity out there. So just kind of wanted to warn you in case we lose each other, and I don't want to lose you, but if that happens, you'll understand what's going on, and I can try to get back on as soon as possible. But the last time that happened, my power went out, and it was about an hour and a half. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. So the next thing is we're going to just create some with maybe darker colors. Use some darker colors. I'm not going to use black just yet, but I could add a little black just to kind of get some darkness and some kind of contrast. That's the word I'm looking for. So I'm just going to stencil in some contrast, and I don't need to use the whole stencil. I'm just going to make kind of shapes here like this. You can draw with your pen. If you have a nice pen, you can do that, or a permanent pen. You can just play with, darks. And I'm showing what I mean by that is, you can see if I lift it, you can see I've made some dark shapes here. Sort of a mixed a little black with a little purple. And I'm going to bring the same, I'm just going to follow the same stencil, except I flipped it a little bit. I'm going to put it over on this side. So really putting your stencil, or if you're using a stencil, or if you have a potato that you're using, anything to make a pattern, you just want to put it in a couple, three, maybe 2 areas of your journal page, or 3 areas, but just kind of make it so that it isn't too contrived. You're just going to have it. So here I just put a little shape. There it is. It's just basically creating dimension. I'll do it on this side with a different one. Oops, I should have done that. I didn't use a stencil on my tape. Oh well. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to do the same thing on this one, except I'm using it's a little smaller. And I'm just dry brushing it with my stencil brush. You can do this with making marks with your anything, but just getting that some darkness. You want to do dark, and then we'll do light after that. So I'm just kind of going here with this side, and then I'm going to go on the opposite side and do the same thing. So we've really just laid down like the base of a really fun journal page without thinking. We're playing. There's no planning yet. There's nothing that really makes sense of anything yet, and that's okay. There we go. So I've got that going on, and I'm just making sure that all these little edges are kind of off. So now I've got my darks. You can also create darks. Oh, and just to go back to my tape, which is probably distracting me more than helping, but I just wanted to show you. So let's say you have extra on your tape, you have extra paint, and you can take your tape and just do the same thing. Just create doing the same exact technique from your tape to your, from your journal to your tape. And then you've got a matching. You'll have something that kind of works coordinated. It's color coordinated, which is kind of fun if you want to do something later that maybe you want to detail your journal page, or you want to add an embellishment. Now you've got you've got kind of a coordinated matching motif here on both of those. So I'm going to do that. And next thing is I'm going to add a little bit more, maybe some light. And I'm going to take my stencil brush and clean it. And this time I'm going to do I'm going to grab a little, I think maybe some orange, or no, yellow, I don't know, some white, something light. I've already got white in my palette here, so I'll add a little yellow to it, because this might be a transparent yellow. Something light, anything light. We've already done some dark, now we're going to do some light. So I've got this little guy. Oops, I have to tell you, I just said little guy. Now, I loaded something up on my YouTube channel. It was, oh boy, when was it? Saturday. And it was just a simple, oh no, it was a comment on one of our classes, actually, the little folded books class. And I had said, I called this little thing, it was it was the, I can find my brush. I need to find the brush. Oh, there it is. I found a brush. It was just I talked about a little book being a little guy, and a lady wrote, "I challenge you not to make a video using putting a gender on an inanimate object." And I just ignored it, but I thought, so let me know if I say guy and it offends you. I'm sorry. I just do that when I see something little. I think it's cute, and I want to call it a little guy. So I don't know. So here we are. I'm just brushing this, and this you can do with potatoes or anything you want to make an impression with. You just paint it with your brush, and then you just stamp and you want to just kind of randomly go throughout your, maybe using the same pattern at least 3 to 5 times in random areas. There's one here. Doesn't have to be a beautiful impression, because it's going to get covered up. going to get covered up, mostly covered. So I've got 3. I think the 3 wheels are probably enough. Some Dorothy, and I will thank you, thank you, Dorothy. I love it. I know. I think I'm going to ignore it. I was going to make a little comment to her and put a little smiley face and just say, "Have a nice day." But then I thought, no, that will give her power or whatever, make her feel like I cared. And I really, even though I do, I'm not going to let her think I do. So I've got the 3 little circles, and I'm going to keep the yellow loaded, and I'm going to just add those same things to my tape. Just going to do it right here. And why not? We're just making a coordinating tape. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. I want to make sure it hits all of, at least all 3 pieces of tape. And I could actually, don't want to waste this yellow. It's such a pretty color. I'm just going to do it again, maybe on this side, here, and here. And I hear that thunder rolling in. Oh boy. It's fun. They're getting the rain though. We really need the rain here in Arizona, so it's a good thing. So I've got these, now I've got 4, that's good, that looks good. And I see I made a little boo-boo here, so I'm just gonna cover it up with another little mark. And since I have 4, I'm going to just do it right here. Wherever, it's just random. I'm not designing anything yet. So I'm gonna throw that in and actually what I'm doing, just so you know, when I finish a stencil, or if I'm not using it, I put it in a little cat litter box filled with water, which my cat thinks is a water dish, but it's not. So I'm going to blot off some. If you have extra paint, just blot it off so that it doesn't take forever to dry. This is not this is not our finished layout yet. And we're using the heat gun, whatever works. There we go. It's all very random. You can even use paper towels to make patterns, just if you wanted to dip I'll show you what I mean. I've got this paper towel. I'm going to just take a little part of it here. This is actually a bamboo towel. I'm trying to be kinder to the environment, so I'm using bamboo products rather than the paper, trying to anyway. So I've got this yellow I still have, and if I want to make a pattern, I can do it here. I've got like a little cool looking pattern, just using it's pretty, it's kind of cool looking. It's a nice splash of color without, and I tried it on my tape because I wanted to see how it looked before I went crazy on my journal. But see, that's what's fun. You can make impressions with anything you have. Just, if you want to add a little splash of color and something just to give it interest, you can do it with anything. So a paper towel can become a rubber stamp. And I'm kind of leaving this area in the middle sort of blank. I don't know why. I'm just going to go in there and just put some color in there. So that's what you can do with that. Let that dry. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to maybe do some letters. Like if you have a stamp pad, if you have a stamp, or if you just want to write again with a pen. I'm not sure how the pencil's going to write over it. Let's see if the pencil even writes. Yeah, you can write with a pencil over your acrylic. Some pencils don't do really well. Some acrylics have more shine than others, so just play around with that. But let's do some more writing or stamping or something. Or if you have stamps that have details, like line drawings, anything like that. So I'm going to just hit this a little bit, and now I'm going to do some mark making again. So let's see if this one will. And this one I can just do little X's. You can make little designs. Yeah, that one seems to work. You can make little words, or if you wanted to take a stamp pad, I've got this quote that go confidently to Henry David Thoreau. I'm just going to take that and I'm going to put the stamp, and I'm not going to put it like I'm not trying to be, nobody's going to be able to read this, probably not. So I'm going to do it actually maybe straight up here, but then I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to put it over on this here. So it's just in all different directions. So it becomes a pattern. It's not really meant to be, it's not meant to be a perfect impression of anything. It's just a pattern. So I'm just going to put it here. And I could go in all different directions. Actually, why not? Because it says go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And who knows what direction that will be in one day to the next. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating texture and an interest in without really trying to make an image. I'm going to put it over. Actually, it'd be fun to put it over this one here. Maybe I'll just stick it right over that so I can see it popping over that yellow. And I'll do the same thing on this side. It's all. This is a fun way to use a stamp that you never would think. I'm going to use a phrase stamp for creating. For creating texture and pattern, but it's perfect. And I may use this stamp in a moment, at the end, near the end of my creation today, is I may use this as a focal point, but right now it's just a background. And it's very handy. I'm going to create more letter here. So I hope you see that okay. There's a little spot that needs it right there. So now I've got some black, nice patterning going. Put some more here. And maybe a little bit more. I'll turn the stamp upside down and put it here. So this is a good way to use a stamp. If stamps aren't cheap, so I'm gonna try to get the most use out of it that I can. There we go. I'll just put that upside down. So lots of beautiful text now I have. So that is one way you can use a stamp. Many ways. Oh, and I forgot. I need to do it on this. I've got to repeat my patterning with this tape. Just turn it upside down, and now I've got this really cool text that's going across. And if you want to use a permanent pen and make some handwriting, that would be also really nice too. I'm just going to do it like this, and then maybe crisscross it too. Or for the tape, maybe not. But what's nice about tapes is you can use it in any direction, so you don't want to give it a certain direction. You want it to go all over the place, like that. And I'm even using the surface of my journal as a stamping surface, and that gives more texture. So that's kind of fun. Because I'm just going to do it right over here, so I have some more text going there. So I put some text now on my tape. I'm going to set that aside. Put my stamp aside. Now we've got some bright colors, but we need to start focusing in on something like, okay, we need to make either a negative painting or a negative image. And I call a negative image, I'll explain this. I've got this bird and I've been kind of wanting to use it for a while. And I have to decide where I want that to be. If you want to do something where you're going to go through a stencil, like let's say this stencil, you can do it through. That would make you would actually put the image inside. This image is going to be on the outside. So I'm going to put this bird on it partially. It's not all the way. I'm just going to put it right here. Well, wind is blowing. It could get bad. So now the next step is I'm going to take some light paint, preferably white, or white gesso is good too. Or if I want to use just anything light, I might try a light turquoise, just because I haven't tried it before. But something light. This is teal, and it's a very strong, very opaque color by Golden. I'm going to mix a little white with it, just to I'll put it off to the side. I won't use it yet. And I'm going to use a dry brush when I'm doing this. This is called a stipple brush. So maybe that's the name of what I was using before. But it's just a nice soft, however, maybe I'll make it go this way. I like the bird coming from this direction. I'm going to put the tail off to the side a little bit because it's a little big. But here's what I mean by the negative painting. So I'm just going to go around the bird. And I probably should have, and you notice what I'm doing is I'm covering up most of what was underneath. But the inside is going to remain. So there I've got this, and I'm going to kind of try to go soft now. I'm going to try to keep it and I'm not covering up everything. I'm just kind of a soft, very soft blending that will kind of make it cloudy looking, but not covering up everything. If that makes, I hope I'm not going too fast because this kind of project, I'm trying to get a lot in a short, in a short hour. But I do want you to not feel like you need to finish your page. I want you to go with this and play and work on it after we're finished. And then next week we can, in our social, we can share our pages. So what I mean by this, you can see now that negative image, or this image is the prominent image, and this is soft. So I'm going to keep going a little bit by putting that on. I like that, what's happening. So I'm just going to hit it with some more turquoise right around the bird. And just to bring that shape out a little bit more. And maybe it'd be on a perch, I'm not sure. I can do more drawing afterwards. And I'm going to also take that across that same turquoisey color that I have. I'm just going to bring it across the page because I'm just softening, and the things are still showing underneath though. That's I don't want to lose everything. And if you find you lose a lot, like here I've lost a lot, you can actually, while the paint's still wet, you can scratch it. You can see I'm able to scratch it out, and I could still, if I want to. If you want to keep it, some of that stuff going on, you can actually, while it's still wet, lift it up a little bit. So I'm going to also take this bird and I'm going to do some, using that same color, I'm just going to soften, same thing, just going to do the same thing on this tape. So that my tape and the journal have the same motif going. And what I like about these cutouts is you can flip them and have the mirror image. These are a lot more versatile than a stencil, because a stencil is only one way, but I like when you do a cutout like that, you can actually get two sides. You can get the birds kind of close together, or kissing birds, or whatever you want. So that's why I like that. But what we're doing is we're softening all that chaos that's here in the background. So I've got that going, and I think I will bring the bird image now that I see it. I might just bring it right here, and maybe just a really light, much lighter area here. And I'm just going to soften it as I go out. And I'm just a very dry brush kind of effect. You had a question?
Yeah, do they refer to that as a mask as well, the bird?
Yes, thank you. That's a mask.
Thank you.
It's kind of a loose mask, right? It's kind of
yeah.
You can do this with Post-it, like in the stamping world, you take a Post-it note, cut it out. Anytime you want to make a shape, oops, that's something sticking. There you go. So now I might mask off that. Thank you for mentioning that, Melissa, because I forgot. I just went a thing. I could call it a guy too, right? Instead of a mask. But it's just kind of a way, I'm going to kind of make a halo around that bird's, kind of around the bird's shape here. And I'm going to repeat this. And if you use it out, if you cut your mask out, thank you, that's a great, cut your mask or your shape out with the kind of cardstock material, you can use it over and over and over. And when the paint dries on it, it becomes stronger and stronger. So, it was, at first it's just paper, but now it's becoming a kind of a plasticized paper because I've added some acrylic paints to it. So now I've got this nice highlighted thing going, and I'm really liking this page so far. And this is fun. It's softened, and now I've got areas to make a focal point, because when you're too busy, you've got too many things, which right now it still has too many things. It's hard to find. You need to find a focal point. You need a place to focus and a place for your eyes to rest. So another thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead. I really like this teal white color, and I have some left over. So I'm going to just go ahead and kind of dry brush more off up here. I'm just going to do it throughout the whole thing. I'm leaving the focal points in the bird shape, and just a gentle dry brush, which is really softening the areas but not covering up, and just softening it. And if you don't have a stipple brush, you'll be happy if you had one because it makes it really nice. If you try to think of other ways to soften, a sponge, if you have just a sponge, very dry, you can do the same thing with a sponge, or similar. Not exactly the same, but similar. You can pick up, if you have other colors you want to pick up in your palette that you want to kind of use, then this is the time to do it. I'm just doing this softening the whole thing and leaving some areas more sharp and some areas a little more softer. So now I've got this beautiful texture. I've got two birds kind of facing each other. And now the next thing that I really wanted to share with you that I think is really fun. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. Maybe I'll add do some softening here as well. I think that looks pretty good just that way. Okay, next thing that I wanted to show you. This is, I'm gonna set that aside, let that marinate for a little bit or dry. Now, when I mentioned that you need some kind of papers that are patterned, like for instance, this kind of stuff. You have some decorative paper or paper that you don't like that much, paper that's not really your favorite. Some of these are papers I would not use by themselves anymore. I'm just going to grab a sheet of newsprint so I can do my thing. Top. So I'm going to first one. I think I want to do is this because I think this would be a nice one to use in my spread today. And my thing is getting so spread out. There we are. So you've got something patterned underneath, whether it be a paper that you really aren't that fond of, or just something has patterns. And you're going to get a stencil. And if you don't have a stencil, you can draw freehand or use a stamp, anything. And I'm going to have to find that stencil. Where we go? This stuff that you should see my table. Where'd it go? I'll find it. I was actually hoping to use a stencil that has a leaf, kind of a botanical thing to it. I'm going to move things off and if I can find it, it's got to be here. There it is. Okay, so I found these I remember one of our members actually shared the link with this, and I love the stencils. They're really simple. They're very simple botanical shapes. I think I got them on Amazon. They were really cheap. They were like $12 for 6, I think. And they're really simple, and I really like them. So I'm laying this on. Now I can do this with paint, with my stencil brush, with leftover paint. And since I kind of ran out, I'm going to just do it with, let's see, what color? Maybe some green. Why not? Because I haven't used green. I'm going to put a little green and a little bit of black because I need the black. Where's that black? Okay, there you are. I'm going to just put a little black, and I'm going to go dry. I don't want to have a lot of paint in this because when you're working with a stencil, you want to do it dry. You don't want to have it globbing with paint. If you can do this with stamps as well, and the transparent colors, it will actually you'll be able to see what's underneath, which is even better. So that's kind of where I'm heading here. So I'm going to throw a little purple. You can make it gray. I mean, whatever you want, whatever you got in your stash. I'm going to start with a very dry brush, and a lot of times I just pretty much wipe off most of I'm wiping off most of the paint, and I'm going to have a very dry brush. And I'd rather go very dry and be than any wet. You don't want it to be wet. So the drier, the better, but there's no globs underneath. Plus it also keeps the shape or lets you see the text or whatever pattern you have underneath. In this one, I'm just doing I'm just scrubbing it along until I run out of paint, until it doesn't, and look how far it goes, even that very dry brush I'm able to get. It covers it, it's amazing. When I need to fill it, I just go ahead and same thing, just dab it off on something until it's pretty dry, and then just keep going, because you don't want to cover it so thickly. You want to keep it so that all you need to do is you're just making an outline of your design. So I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to see what it looks like. It looks pretty cool, just like that. I think I could leave it like that, or I could add a little, let's see. What'd be fun is to add a little interference color like gold, or even just gold itself, because actual gold is going to be really opaque. So I'm going to use a little interference color, which it basically is transparent with a little mica in it that gives it some metallic, or it's a mica, very reflective. I'm just going to put a little gold. I'm just going to make it a dry brush though. I'm going to put that inside here too. And that's just warming it up, and it also is making it, and I'm going in different directions, so it's not looking, so I kind of not covering the whole thing, because this is kind of covering up the text, and I don't want to lose my text. All right, so I've got that. Now that looks pretty good. Take that out, take it up, and you can see how gorgeous. I don't know if you can see it, but you can make these kinds of things. If you can see that metallic, you can even use gold craft paint. But now I've got a pretty nice little thing going here. I'm going to just continue because it is a stencil. I'm going to take a brush and I'm just going to extend. It's a little bit dark. I'm just going to make that stem and kind of close this up. I don't have to do this, but I'm just doing it for fun. Just kind of closing the gap between to make it look more realistic, if that makes sense. There we are, like that. So next thing is you need a pair of scissors. I just love doing this. Now we cut it all the way around, but we leave some of the edge. You want to leave some of the edge because that text is going to show, which is really neat. And I'm just going to go leave a little border, like a 1/16 of an inch or a little hairline, something that shows the magic of that pattern that's underneath. And also, if you didn't cover it up, make it too opaque, then you can see a hint of the pattern also underneath the paint. And I'm just going around it, but I am leaving a little bit of a border. So it doesn't have to be a perfect cut. And you can do this with any element, like if you had a bird or anything that you want, a shape. You can even make circles, just simple circles would look really dynamic this way. If you just had a little circle stencil and you wanted to cut out some circles and then glue them onto your journal, that would be cool too. Anything, just a shape. So you're basically creating a really interesting design without a lot of effort because you've got that underlayer of the pattern that's underneath. I'm just going to go around and I'm taking my time. And if you don't mind, let's say it's 10 till. If everybody's good, I don't mind staying a few minutes longer. I won't cut off at exactly 1. And if you have to go at 1, I totally understand. The video will be available. But I do want to show you the whole process. Even if it's not a completed journal page, I do want you to see everything from start to finish, and at least so that you can be able to take your journal and finish it at some time later or today or whenever. So I'm just going around. This is called what they call fussy cutting, I heard, which really is detailed cutting. I'm finding that the longer blades that I have, the scissors with the longer blades are actually easier than the short little tiny embroidery scissors. You think the opposite, but you have more cutting surface with your longer blades, and you don't want to cut all the way to the end of the blade anyway. So you just put it and you just move your blade and do most of the cutting in the middle or at the base of the scissor and the middle. But don't get close to the ends, because when you do the ends, you'll get, it kind of acts weird. It sort of bends the paper. And sometimes you could accidentally cut off, go to an area you don't want to cut. So that's why it's good just to do the cuts halfway through. You can see I'm leaving this beautiful border, which is going to give me a really nice edge on the journal page. And I do plan to put this on my journal page. The thing I didn't do, what I was going to do, I'm going to show you, I'm going to do the same technique on the tape as well. I'm going to use that stencil I used. This is the one I put away. I'm going to use that on my tape so that I'll have a matching coordinating tape. I may use a different gold, maybe a more opaque gold, just to kind of cover up what's underneath. But this has been so much fun because I truly love getting my paints out and getting messy. And I'm not really drawing. So those of you who those of you who don't draw, it's okay. You don't need to know how to draw, but don't lose. And in this, I've got this nice, beautiful outline of that plant. I'm going to keep that because I could use this for maybe on the same journal page, or I can use it on another one. So I'm going to put that aside. I don't want to lose that. But this is the one I'm going to put into my page right now. But before that, I was going to do a little quick thing here with the gold just to show you. Just going to put some of this gold here and stencil it on as well so that I've got the matching. Just throwing it on my tape. Sort of scumbling it on. Not trying to be perfect. There we go. I did that here. You know, maybe I'll put it on this one, on this side here. Maybe I'm going over the both. Just play. This is like playing. This is finger painting for adults. And really nothing, you can't make an ugly thing. You're just making something, you're just starting a foundation and you just keep making layers and layers until you're all finished. But there's got some gold on that tape now that I can use. I'll put that in my bath, the stencil bath. Okay, next step. So let's say now your journal page is dry enough to work on. And I've just put there we go. Just trying to get that. So now I've got this beautiful piece of collage fodder, as it's called, or just an element, a collage element. And I really think that is just gorgeous on its own. I'm not going to need to do anything with it. I'm just going to put that on. I'll glue it on with some glue, and I don't want to bore you with that, but you know, I'll just glue that, and then probably we'll take maybe this. I don't know. I can decide what I want to do with that, or my stencil I put in the bin already. But if I wanted to take another botanical stencil, I can do some stenciling over that to make a focal point. So now I'm getting kind of got a theme happening here. I can have the plant here. I could put this Go Confidently, I could put that somewhere in my layout, maybe up here. But instead of stamping on it directly, I don't want to stamp on it directly because, first of all, I'll probably mess it up. And the other thing is when you're doing something like that, like making a title piece, or you're writing, if you're writing, or if you're, did we anybody chat with? Let's see, I don't want to lose anybody on the chat. Awesome, okay. So I'm gonna look for a piece of paper that kind of coordinates well with it. I don't know, I could do pink, I can do yellow, I don't know. It's kind of I think I'm gonna do pink because I feel like that. I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna stamp it. I can find the stamp pad. There we go. And I'm gonna just do a stamp, or you can write something. You can print something out on your computer, whatever you want to do. Something, a quote, a famous quote, or just anything, a passage in a scripture, anything that's just something that inspires you, that makes you feel, you know, whatever. It makes you feel joy. It gives you, it speaks to you. So I'm just gonna press this down right now onto there, and hopefully it's a good impression. If not, I can do it on another part. So now I've got this. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tear it. I could cut it or tear it. That's up to me, I guess. But I'm going to tear it just to show you a little technique with tearing. When you're tearing a piece of paper, you'll see there's a white core, and then so some people like the white core, and I don't want the white core. So when you're tearing it and you don't want the white core showing, you want your image. So let's say I'm going to start from the outside of my image here. I'm going to start tearing. Now this paper is pretty easy. Some papers aren't, but I'm just tearing, and I'm going to let the white core be on this side, but I want it to be solid on this side. There are the little tools you can use for tearing as well. So I've got this beautiful edge without the white, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm turning it I'm going to go tear. I'm going to start my tear with the image on my left side. That will always give you, it's guaranteed, it will always give you the solid edge, the solid paper edge, and then the white core, which is desirable in some things. I didn't want it today. I'm just going to have it like that. So I can also, same thing, I'm going to go from the inside of my image, and I'm going to tear, and that will give me that solid edge. That's a little tip from many years of making mistakes. I'm hoping that'll help. So now I've got this beautiful text block. I think that's just really fun. And I can start detailing, and that's another thing. I'll glue that in. I won't bore you with that either, but I'll glue this in. Another thing we can do, if you wanted to have a little more, details or darks, like if you wanted to sit your bird on a branch, you can draw a branch, or you can you can just draw with pens. As you can see with my other one here that I did yesterday, I'm going to just show you now where you can see where all this is going. Now, here's the finished journal page that's very similar in technique. What I did was I glued that. This is one of these that I glued on. and then I just shadowed it with some blue gray watercolor or paint. It was acrylic. And then afterwards, I took a doodle. I doodled over it. So same thing here. I cut this out, glued it on, and I used some markers to doodle over it, and I shadowed it. So same. This is the text block that I use. It's a different quote. And then I put, to finalize it, because it just wasn't coming together, I took some of the tape that I had created and I cut a small thin strip and I stuck it right over, and I felt that really changed it because it had all these organic things going and nothing straight except for the edges of the journal. And I thought that little piece of tape with artwork on it really changed it all. So that is why I have the tape, so that I can do the same thing. I can use it to kind of make a focal point. I can maybe use it to underline the text. There's all kinds of things that you can do with it. And you can use pens, markers, maybe text, but this is the general page layout. And I hope that it helps you to continue a complete afternoon of journaling, because I think I'll be finishing that. And I think I'd like to draw a branch on this to give it, to put some, or put it on a rock, something. The bird needs to be sitting on something. And then having my text block, I may decorate it with maybe some paint or a little bird, who knows, something needs a little bit, and putting some tape down. But that is the class. I'd love to see what you've done, or if you have any questions, or oops, let me remove the spotlight here.